What's up, everybody? This is Russell from Russell Tracy Photography, and this is going to be part 2 of 2 of my composite videos. I did one last week. I have the link in the description. Might be good to check that one out. I talked about some other stuff in that video as far as composites go. That one, we did a locked off tripod shot where we had the camera on the tripod. It was capturing one scene, something going through the scene. The one that we're doing today, it was a shot that I took at a track meet, and it's of a hurdler going over a hurdle. We're gonna look at the photos here in a second. What I did was I went up to the press box and I was hand holding the camera and I was panning with the runner as he was going and then up over the hurdle. We're gonna put all those photos together into a panoramic composite. We're gonna do this slightly different than the one that we did last week, so check it out. It's another way that you can do these. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it works better than just using the layers that we talked about in the last video. So again, if you haven't checked that out, I'll have the link in the description to that video. Now on to the photos. We're going to look at them right here. So these are the photos that we're going to be using today. You can see the hurdler going over. Unfortunately, he knocked over the hurdle. We're going to be putting these together to create an image that looks like this. So this is what hopefully the final image will look like. And again, we're going to be using Bridge and Photoshop. To start, we're going to select all the photos that we want to use. In Bridge, you're going to go to Tools, Photoshop, and then Photomerge. If you get this warning right here, it says Photoshop CC is busy, just hit yes. It'll do its thing, and then it'll open up this window right here for Photomerge. So first things, you want to make sure all the files are loaded into the source files. For layout, I just use auto, and then make sure you have blend images together selected. And then once that's done, we're gonna hit OK and let Photoshop do its thing, and we'll be right back after that. All right, and we're back. Photoshop finished up what it was doing, and you can see that we have a panoramic because it's wide and it has it has 3 of the photos in there. Now, you can see over here on the right-hand side that what Photoshop did was it basically did the same thing that we did the last time. It put each photo on a separate layer. Now, what it did differently was with the Photomerge, it added these layer masks down the side. So Photoshop went and created a layer mask, what it was going to show or not show. So we'll show these from each photo. This is what Photoshop picked to use from each photo for the final image. Now this is a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is you can go and you can edit these because they're layer masks. If you look right here, you have some black and some white. So anything in the layer mask that is white, that is what is being displayed. Anything that is black is not going to be displayed. So you can go in here with a brush tool, which is what we're going to do here in a little bit, and you can edit this layer mask however you want. Now, if I show all these photos and we can see the whole image, Photoshop chose this position or this photo that the hurdler was in. Now we don't want that photo. We want to use the one right before that. This is the one right before he actually went over the hurdle. Well, went through the hurdle actually. What we're going to do is we're going to paint this this other photo back in, but before we do that, we need to take this other one out. Now I don't want to take all of it out because there's still some other parts that up here and stuff like that that are being used. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure this layer is selected. Make sure the mask is selected, and we're going to choose the brush tool, and you can do that by hitting B on the keyboard, or it's the one that looks like a paintbrush. And then down here for the color palette, you want to make sure that one is black and one is white. Because again, whatever is white, if you paint in white, that's going to show up in the image. Whatever is black, if you paint in black, it's not going to display in the image. So we're going to zoom in here a little bit. And we're going to paint out, using the brush tool, this image of the runner. Now, if you need to switch, you can switch between using this double-sided arrow. You can switch back and forth between black and white, or you can hit the X key, and that'll do the same thing. So we want to have black selected, and then we just want to kind of paint over the runner, make sure you get the shadows, all the stuff that you do not want in the final image. So we're going to paint over this hurdle that's falling. We're going to end up with a giant hole in the middle of the photo. So something like this. Now if I show all the layers, we have this giant hole. Now we want to go to the layer above because this is the photo that we want to add to the image. So we're going to select this layer, select the layer mask, and now we want to add, so we're going to hit X or hit this double-sided arrow, make sure white is showing, and we're going to start painting in the other photo. And you can see that Photoshop is just replacing what was there with the new image. Now this is pretty helpful. Just in general, this is a pretty helpful tool to know. Layer masks. If you want to see a video on layer masks, let me know. I can put together a video on layer masking. It's a very, very, very helpful tool. So now, if I zoom out, show the whole image, now instead of having the other position, we have this one. If we flip back over to the final, that's the image that we want. Now, if you look at this other final image, we're missing this section, this photo right here. Now, this photo is still here. It's down here, but unfortunately, we can't just paint him back in, because if we paint him back in, then one, we'd have to rearrange the layers here, but also he would be covering up, he'd be right here in this area right here, covering up this last photo, and we want him like more spaced out evenly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into Bridge. We're going to choose the photo that we want, and we're just going to grab it and drag it into Photoshop, and it's going to render. This was a raw image, so we're just going to hit OK, let it open. It's going to be preparing as a smart object, and then it's going to load. And what you need to do is just place it on the place it in the layers. And then what you want to do is you want to grab it and drag it all the way to the top. Now what we want to do is we want to right click, because this is a smart object and we can't edit smart objects directly. We want to right click and choose rasterize layer. This is going to make it a normal layer that you can just turn on and off. We want to hide the rest of these layers, and then we're going to use the marquee tool that we talked about last time. Just select the marquee. It's a little square looking thing, or you can hit M on the keyboard. We're going to select the runner. We're going to right click and hit select inverse and then delete, and everything goes away except for the runner. Now we want to show all the other layers. Now we want to get this lined up properly. So we're going to use the move tool. It's up here. You can hit V on the keyboard. V as in Victor. And we're going to zoom in here. And what I want to do is I want to pick one of the lines on the track to line this up with. So we're going to move over a little bit, and I'm going to use this top line because he's running in this lane right here. So I'm going to use this bottom line, and I'm just going to line it up right where I want it. And it's okay if it overlaps a little bit. I'm going to zoom in here because I want to make sure this bottom line lines up almost perfectly. Nudge this down so it lines up. And now we're going to zoom all the way out. That looks like a pretty good place for the runner to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide all these other images again. And now we want to clean up around the runner. So we want to get rid of all this extra stuff. Now, I talked about in the last video, when you're doing the outlines and stuff like that, you want to be very, very careful. Take your time. It's very detail oriented. I'm not going to be doing a very detailed job, just enough to get through this tutorial, but you do want to take your time. So we're going to choose the lasso tool, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to knock out some of the big stuff. Just use the lasso tool, select and delete. All right, now that you have it pretty well cut out, you want to get in there with the eraser brush and do your fine detail. So if we show all these other layers, you can see now that obviously the lanes don't line up. So we're going to go into the eraser or hit E on the keyboard. We're going to zoom in here, make sure we're still selected on the layer that we want to erase from. That's the layer that we're working on. And see how this doesn't line up? We're just going to take this eraser and we're just going to erase away the image. Now this is where the detail and the patience come into effect, because you don't want to erase too much. So once you get that one good, we're just going to move up to the other ones, and I'll be back in just a little bit once I get this done. Alright, now we've got the lines lined up pretty good, the track lines lined up pretty good, but if you look, there's kind of a halo around the edge, and this is, I just wanted to point this out because if we hide all these other layers, you can see that there's still a good bit of the track surrounding the player. And that is going to cause a halo effect. So if you look, I think you can see it better over here. So if you look like right along here, right where I'm pointing the mouse, there's a hard line between the background and what we just pasted in. And I just wanted to use this as an example to why you really need to be detailed and take your time to get this looking right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the eraser. I'm just going to kind of go around and clean up these hard lines a little bit, and then we'll finish this up. All right, now that we got the hard lines cleaned up, now again, I can't stress this enough. Take your time when you're doing this. You really, really, really want to take your time. Make sure you do it right. You can't stress that enough. So now that we've got this cleaned up pretty well, the photo's pretty much done. So we have a couple options just like we had last time. At this point we can save this, we can save the layers, or we can make the decision to just collapse this whole thing down and continue on. So just for the sake of demonstration, we're just going to keep these layers, and now we need to take care of some of this other detail work, like this big pink bottle and this case and stuff like that, and all of the transparent area. So the first thing that we want to do to clean this up is we want to crop this in. So I like this aspect ratio because I want it to be a panorama. So I'm going to go to crop or hit C, and we're going to go up here where it says width by height by resolution. We're going to do front image, and this will keep us in the same aspect ratio that the image is currently in. And we're just going to select an area that we want, and then we're going to position the crop where we want to put it. Now I want to put these hurdles right in the middle, so I'm just going to nudge this thing to the right. Now when you're cropping, unless you want to fill it in later, make sure that you do not crop any of the transparent area into it. Once you're happy with the crop, just go ahead and hit enter. It's going to crop the entire image down. Now again, if you want to save these layers, but you still want to do this detail work, if you're on a Mac, I'm sorry, I don't know what the Windows shortcut is, but if you do Command, Option, Shift, E as in echo, what that will do is that will create a layer of, a composite layer of everything below it. So now you have one layer that has everything in it. And from here, what we can do is we can zoom in and we can start cleaning up some of these areas that we want to clean up. All right, so we got this pink water bottle. Now we talked about this the last time, the content aware fill. So we're gonna select our lasso tool again. We're just gonna select around this pink water bottle. We're gonna hit Shift Delete. The content aware fill comes up. If it doesn't, just this menu, select content aware, hit OK, and it goes away. And from here, what you can do is you can just go and just clean up some of the areas on this track. Get it looking how you want to look. Then apply your contrast, apply your color color grading, all that good stuff. And again, if you want to save it as the layers, save it as a Photoshop file, then save it as a separate JPEG so you can actually post it online or wherever you want to post it. That's pretty much it. So if we look at this other image, now obviously this one's been color graded. I spent about an hour or so on this one as well, cutting the runner out pretty good. But you can see that these are pretty similar to each other. That's pretty much all I've got for you today. If you have any comments, questions, anything that you want to see, leave a comment below. All my social media is in the description. Again, I'll have the link to the previous video in the description as well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it that thumbs down. If you haven't done so, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. If you want to get the notifications, don't forget to hit that bell icon. This is Russell from Russell Tracy Photography. Have a good day.